But first, back to Hunter Biden, his paternity case. Hunter is fighting paying child support to the mother of his 4-year-old daughter, who he's never met.
Yeah, joining us now for more is Kentucky Congressman, Chairman of the House Oversight Committee, James Comer. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Mr. Chairman, great to have you back on. Hunter, so he's never met his daughter. The president, by the way, never met his granddaughter. Biden's attorneys yesterday claimed that Hunter had to sleep on a cot in Ireland when he was over there with Dad, that his Porsche was repossessed, and that the only income he's got, you feel bad for the guy, is from his art sales. And we've talked about this many times. His art, truly remarkable how talented he is. Tell us why you're watching this case so closely and what we could learn.
Well, first of all, we want to know more about the art sales. These all took place while Joe Biden's been president of the United States. We have no idea who bought the artwork, much less what it sold for. So that's of particular interest to us. Also, when it comes to producing financial documents, which the judge has ordered him to do, we're curious to see if he has any offshore accounts. We've heard rumblings that they may have done some of that in the last few years to try to hide from congressional investigations, to try to hide from the DOJ tax evasion investigations. And I can tell you with 100% certainty from looking at how they set up all these LLCs to try to disguise who the sender of payments were, mainly places like the Chinese Communist Party, as well as to deceive the IRS. Nothing would surprise me. So I'm anxious to see more about the financial documents. We actually have a lot of bank statements that show wires into various LLCs that were then funneled back to the president's son and his family. But we're always looking for more. I know there's more there. So we're just sitting back anxiously awaiting to see what financial documents he does produce.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, because he's instructed to hand over a lot of these financial documents. The judge basically said, you've got to give us everything. Do you think that this judge actually will have more information than you? And could this actually be, the case that takes him down?
Well, I think he's going to regret trying to get his child support payments cut back. This is certainly drawing more attention to the fact that this guy's received millions and millions of dollars over the last decade off Joe Biden's last name,
right,
off being Joe Biden's son, influence peddling, whatever you want to call it. And the fact that he claims he can't pay child support payments, but yet he's paying the most expensive legal team in America, probably. If you look at who Abby Lowell, his attorney, has represented in the past, it just doesn't make sense. But I do think that this judge is serious. From what little I've read and what I've seen on TV, I think she's serious about getting to the truth. And she admonished his attorneys for being very vague. They tried to play her off as some country bumpkin judge because she's from the South. And I feel like that the judge is going to stand firm and make them produce documents. So, what we've seen from the Bidens in the past, they've never been 100% truthful about anything. So, whatever they produce will help us in our investigation, I can assure you.
I don't understand. I don't understand, Mr. Chairman, why Joe Biden doesn't call his son and say, look, you got to pay up. I'll give you the money. Because right now, Hunter's going to be deposed next month. Then he's going to be in the courtroom a month later. His daughter's going to be in the courtroom, too. And this is a beautiful little girl, 4 years old. And she has, by the way, she is totally innocent throughout this entire ridiculous process. Can you tell us about some of the tactics that might not be so above board that Hunter's lawyers, who again are more than $1,000 an hour, have been using to maybe intimidate some of the witnesses in this case?
Well, I think they know who the witnesses would be. They know that people are obviously talking to us, or we wouldn't have known where to go to have subpoenaed certain bank documents that showed wires that the Bidens thought no one would ever find. So they're going to these people. Obviously, they used to be involved with some of the Biden family influence peddling schemes. And, they're just trying to reiterate their point that there's a lot that could come out on them if they spilled the beans. So they're basically discouraging witnesses from coming forward, cooperating with congressional investigations. We've also subpoenaed different financial institutions for bank records, and they've all complied with us, and they've let it known their disappointment and, try to lead the the banks to think, oh my gosh, there could be retaliation in this. So at a time when the banks are under the gun, under the radar screen because of Joe Biden's failed policies, there's a bank that's failing about every 3 or 4 weeks in America.
Yeah, look at First Republic.
We've got a lot of problems with how this legal team has handled this case thus far. There's a big sense of entitlement with his attorneys. They've represented Republicans and Democrats, and they think that somebody like me is going to cave because they've represented high-profile Republicans like Jared Kushner in the past. I don't care. We're going to get the facts to the American people. We're doing that. And regardless of what they do, we're going to press forward.
Such a good point. Keep us posted, Congressman. Great to have you back on. Thank you.
Thank you.
James Comer with us this morning.